All right, so we are back with another BSN Backstage, and this man needs no introduction, but I'll give him a quick one anyway. I am joined with the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Andy Henriquez from MSA Master Storyteller Academy. And listen, I am super excited about this conversation because Andy, as you know, you got 10 years in the game now, and so we got a lot to talk about. So really excited to peel back the layer, man. How are you doing?
Man, I'm doing fantastic, man. It's hard to believe that this is our 10th year of working with entrepreneurs, speakers, coaches, experts, and helping them to be able to craft and put together their signature story that they're going to use in the marketplace. Brian, we've had an amazing relationship with BSN. We've had so many people out of the BSN community that have come through the training. You yourself have been through the training. And then as we're getting ready for this 10-year anniversary, we are just looking forward to like the next group of entrepreneurs, coaches, and experts that we're going to be able to bless. And what's really cool, man, I think I was telling you this a little bit offline, is that when COVID hit, we went virtual with our signature training program, our Master Storyteller Academy. And so most people since March of 2020 were coming to our training basically virtual. But for the 10-year anniversary, we're doing one and only one live in person this year on May 28th through the 30th. And the reason why we're doing that is we're like, man, with everything happening in the marketplace right now, with the emergence of AI and people, it's really hard for people to differentiate like what's real, what's not real. I think that there's going to be more of a desire for people to get in the room, to really just be able to like be in the room to work on the same skill we normally help them on virtually, but be in the room to be able to practice sharing their message, helping them to put their message together and helping them to connect their message to their bank account. You know what I mean? Because that's the main thing in this environment. It's not about like, ooh, I want to tell my story. No, it's about like, how do I leverage this story so that I could attract my ideal customer and client, so I can get them to see the value of my products and services, so I can get them to trust me fast enough so that they can make a decision with our products and our services, man. And we've learned so much over these last 10 years. And Brian, I'm going to say this, because as we get ready to have this conversation, like I'm so clear that for the people who are a part of BSN, who are listening into this backstage conversation, I'm so clear that the draw of you coming to join us is not that it's our 10-year anniversary, right? Because for you listening in, you're like, okay, kudos, congratulations, Andy, 10-year anniversary. Wow, that's awesome for you, but what does that got to do with me? So I want to be clear, like we are celebrating a 10-year anniversary, but that is not the reason why people need to be in the room. They need to be in the room because I personally believe that we have the #1 training in the world at helping people to be able to craft their signature story. And specifically, and just so people are saying, well, what's the signature story? It's the main message that you're going to use to attract your ideal customer and client, to be able to get them to know, like, and trust you, and then be able to leverage that to be able to convert them to your products and services. So it's a strategic story that you leverage to both attract and convert the people that you want to do business with. So the reason why you show up in the room is because you want a message that's going to allow you to accelerate your conversions, build your connections, and so forth. And I understand that it's just a bonus that it's our 10-year anniversary. I wanted to just be able to say that for the record, Brian, because sometimes we get a little confused when we lead with our promotions and marketing. We're like, oh, it's our 10-year anniversary. That's really special to me and to the people who've gone through our experience. But I understand for the person who's never been before, that means nothing. And they're still saying, well, why do I need to show up?
Well, I think it's the thing that I take away, and that's perfect. So great way to kick off, Andy. You already answered like 6 of my questions in one. So you got the master storyteller. I love when the message is the message. But I think it just shows the track record, because I mean, you don't do something for 10 years that doesn't work. You don't put I think you had almost over 1,000 people have gone through MSA at this point. Yes. So you don't put 1,000 people through a program that's not effective. So I just like to point that out, because to me it speaks to the longevity, or it speaks to the track record, and having gone through, and I went through in an in-person experience. I think it was the last in-person experience after we got right before we got shut down, right?
Right before we got shut down, man.
that was crazy. But I can speak to the power of being in that room from a couple perspectives. Number one, this is BSN Backstage. So I'm gonna start kind of high level just from my experience, and then I have some questions for you. So one, going to an event where, and this is May 28th, 29th, and 30th. So you got 3 days. So you're in a room with people for 3 days. Now, a lot of times when you go to one-day experiences, you may have an opportunity to meet people, but you don't really have an opportunity to build relationship. I walked out of there with multiple new relationships with speakers, experts, content creators, like entrepreneurs from all these different backgrounds. So that was one. I think when you think about the skill of storytelling, our entire existence is a big composite of stories, but how effectively we're telling those stories is really is the variable. And seeing people from all these different backgrounds, you were able to, regardless of where they're coming from, and we had a chance to practice those stories and refine them right there in the workshop. It was so cool to see that this skill is just so universally applicable. It doesn't matter if you have a roofing company or if you are out trying to be a leadership expert or you specialize in mental health. This was a skill that was going to work for you. And then the third thing that was impactful was when you're in a room, there's something about shutting off the rest of the outside world and just being able to truly lock in on what you need and get out of the experience. So those are three things I really, really appreciated about jumping on a plane, getting down to Orlando. And it was Orlando, right? We were in Orlando, I think.
Yeah, we were actually in Fort Lauderdale when you came. Yeah,
we were in
Fort Lauderdale.
But you're in Fort Lauderdale this time too.
Yeah, I'm in Fort Lauderdale again this time. Yeah, we'll be in Fort Lauderdale.
So I think that's perfect. Not to say nothing of the fact that perfect weather. I remember we walked out for lunch and
we South Florida, man. People come from like cold places. We like always got the sunshine and like just the whole nine. But you were bringing something up that's so good, right, Brian? Is that like the power of being in the room? And I think like for many of the folks, like we're having a backstage conversation. And let's face it, so many of us, like we want to be able to grow our business. We want to succeed. I mean, that's part of the reason why you're even part of BSN, right? Is because you want to have access to these type of conversations. You want to have access to the amazing speakers that Brian brings in. And what happens to a lot of us is on a daily basis, and I still get pulled into this, and I got an amazing team. We are constantly working in our business, right? And we're inside of it as opposed to working on it, right? So when you're working in it, it's like the day-to-day grind, the minutia and so forth. When you're working on it, you sort of pull back and you're developing something that can actually move the needle in your business, as opposed to the daily things that we do that keeps us really, really busy, but doesn't exactly move the needle. And, one of the things that moves the needles the most is basically your messaging. One of the things I've been saying a lot recently, Brian, to a lot of people is I see a lot of entrepreneurs that are frustrated, coaches that are frustrated, experts that are frustrated because they know in their heart, Brian, that they have a great product or a service. And now they start questioning like their offer, right? And the reason why they're questioning their offer is because they're putting it out there and they're not getting the traction that they want. Like people aren't necessarily buying. They're hearing stuff like, sounds interesting. Let me get back to you. I don't know if this is the right timing. All of the random polite ways that people sort of say no. And what I've been trying to let people know, right? What I've been trying to let people know, for a lot of us, Brian, it's not really like you have an offer problem. The real issue is a lot of us, we have a messaging problem. And we're just not being able to convey to people and get them to see the value of our products and our services. And then now, like the landscape of what's going on right now, it's getting compounded. Because I don't know about you, Brian, but like I'm even getting to the place now when I'm going on social media and I'm seeing stuff and things that I'm pretty certain are real. And I'm still sort of scratching my head as like, is this real or not real? Is this AI or is this not AI? Right. And so I think like in this landscape where, content is now cheap. And the reason why I say that is that like anybody could go on any AI platform, right? Whether they're going to go on, Claude, whether they're going to go on ChatGPT or any of the other gazillion platforms, they can easily be able to grab content. So content has become cheap. But what now has a premium? What has a premium now is trust. What has a premium now is connection. What has a premium now is being able to build rapport, right? And so since content is cheap, what it's done now, it's put a premium on those of us that really know how to leverage a message that allows us to build connection and trust so that people understand why they should do business with us. And I believe that in this environment, the more that social media is going to be like inundated with people leveraging AI and their AI agents and all that, and people questioning over and over what's real, what's not real, what's real, what's not real, the level of skepticism is going to go up. The amount of people who are questioning whether something is real is going to go up. So that means now people are going to desire more of like true, genuine, authentic connection. And by far, the best way to be able to do that is through strategic storytelling. But in addition to connection, the ability not to just connect for the sake of connection, but to connect in a way where people understand why they need your products and services and how your products and services are going to help them to get to the outcome that they desire. And so what's interesting is I think the landscape of the environment right now is about to make the skill set of communicating, building connection, trust, and rapport a more premium skill set, especially for those of us that can convey trust quickly, connection quickly, and then move that towards some form of action taking with buying our products and our services.
No, I think that's powerful. One of the things I notice, Andy, is that it seems to me that most brands, you know, Fortune 500 companies and the like, they've kind of figured out that storytelling is no longer optional. They're building, you know, in-house studios now. I just saw something, was it Charmin or it was some it was a company that you would not expect to have like an in-house kind of like production team, and they are trying to figure out how to do that because exactly like you said, like I don't know if you're watching this, I mean, we got people BSN and your community all around the world, but in the United States, here's what I know. We get advertised to a lot. Like we're the number one consumer market and we're the number one advertised to. And so it becomes a lot harder to cut through the noise when everything sounds the same. And so I think truly if big brands, the Procter and Gambles of the world, the Nissans, you know, everybody's trying to figure out how to tell more authentic, real human stories, then that certainly has to be the case for our industry too. Are you seeing a reflection of that in the marketplace, or do you feel like in addition to what you mentioned around you know, those particular traits being more premium, like is the ability to craft a compelling story going to be considered one of the more valuable skills of the future?
Yeah, what's interesting is, right, so I've been tuning in to a lot of the top experts on AI. One of the podcasts that I really appreciate is Diary of the CEO.
Oh
And
yeah,
as I'm listening
that's
in
solid.
to a lot of those conversations, right, and many of the top AI consultants. So there's all this stuff about how, you know, AI is basically like, you know, just completely like the hottest trending thing right now. Everybody's jumping on. It's either jump on the bus or be left behind in the whole nine. And so in multiple interviews, as a good interviewer, one of the things that I heard him say was just to the people was like, okay, listen, with everything that's taking place right now, like, you know, well then what will AI not take over, right? So
Exactly.
one was like some of these jobs that we've seen in the past that maybe did not get a premium, maybe it'll be a higher premium, like, you know, a plumber, right? Because AI is probably not going to come in at this point and be able to do what your plumber is going to do. Your electrician, right? AI is probably not going to come in and do that. So they were talking about that in one aspect. And then they were talking about, well, what about for the entrepreneur and so forth? Like, what's the skill? What should we be wanting to develop and so forth? And they all said it in different ways. But what it all boiled down to was the ability to be able to build connection and trust, right? So one of the guys said, oh, we are going to have to do a better job of sharing our lived experiences. What does he mean by that? That's just a fancy way of doing a better job of leveraging your stories of the things you went through so you can build connection and rapport with the people that you want to build connection and rapport with. So in an environment where people are going to be questioning more and more, like what's real, what's not real, what's real, what's not real, what's real, what's not real, what happens is like our ability, our capacity to be able to create trust and connection at an accelerated rate is going to give you a competitive advantage in the marketplace. Now, I personally believe, right, and many would agree, that one of the best ways to accelerate trust and connection is through strategic storytelling, right? So that means while everybody else is going on to AI and basically letting AI do all their thinking for them, and they're pulling their content from AI, they're pulling their copy from AI, they're making their social media posts. And like you say, after a while, it's all sort of like sounding the same, it's looking the same, and the whole nine. Then what's going to be the differentiator, and who's going to start separating themselves a little bit in the marketplace? And I believe the ones that are going to separate themselves are the ones that have the ability, while everything is just like, is it real? Is it not real? Those of us that have the ability to be able to build connection. Because here's the thing I know, like even before having this backstage conversation, if I wanted to, I could jump on AI and be like, hey, I'm about to have a backstage conversation with Brian Oles with the Black Speakers Network. It's about talk about events and blah, 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 blah. And the AI could have just gave me a whole bunch of content. But guess what AI can't do? AI can't jump on camera and be me. AI can't transfer conviction. AI cannot be pivoting on the dime in the middle of the conversation and be able to transfer like the narrative sort of real time. Even when I think about this, right, it was so crazy when I think about the inception of the Master Storyteller Academy and how I even got to this space, right, where I was saying, Brian, you know part of my backstory. I started off with the corporate route. I was working with PricewaterhouseCoopers as an accountant. Basically, I followed the script, right, working with one of the big four public accounting firms. And I'm working with this great company, got nothing bad to say about them, but I was absolutely miserable. And the reason why I was miserable is I was, quite frankly, I was waking up to the 7 o'clock clock every single day, fighting traffic to get to a place in which I knew that something inside me was saying, Andy, there has got to be more than this. And as you know, Brian, you were mentioning Orlando. Orlando is where I went when I left my corporate job. And I realized that becoming an entrepreneur was a little bit harder than what I thought it was going to be. And launching my coaching and speaking business was a little bit harder than I thought it was going to be. I realized I need to get a coach. And I went to Orlando. And when I was in Orlando, I was at this training. And who was it at the front of the room? The one and only legendary Les Brown, right? For those who are listening in, most of you know Les Brown. If you don't know who Les Brown is, trust me, he's your mentor's mentor, one of the top 5 speakers on the planet. This gentleman has literally like Hall of Fame speaker, top awards from Toastmasters International, generated over $62 million from speaking. And so I got an opportunity to be able to get coached and mentored by him. And it didn't happen overnight, but over time, I learned how to be able to craft and share my message. And I was able to eventually be able to bring that skill set to companies to train their executives and leaders. So I've worked with companies like Bacardi, Office Depot, Pratt & Whitney, Accenture, and Google, right? But the crazy thing is, what I realized is that same skill set that these companies were paying me tens of thousands of dollars to bring to their corporation, those same skill sets were the same skill set that the solopreneur that has their own team that maybe is operating a 6-figure, multiple 6-figure, like 7-figure business, that they needed that too. Like they needed to be the spokesman or the spokeswoman for their brand. They needed to have the ability to be able to connect with people, to be able to share a message that builds connection and ultimately creates conversion, right? And I believe like right now in this marketplace, the folks who do not have that skill set and have not developed that skill set and have not get trained, quite frankly, man, I think they're going to start getting left behind, right? Because this is going to be separation season. I mean, it's already like that. I think a lot of people are feeling, a little bit of like uncertainty and so forth in the marketplace. And there's a lot of changes that are happening in the marketplace. And let me tell you, when there's a lot of uncertainty, people are looking for connection. They're looking for trust. They're going off of their instincts. And can you deliver what is necessary to build that trust enough so now they could be in a place where they're ready to make a decision to do business with you?
Facts, absolutely. I know. I agree with that. You can already see the cracks in the foundation from that perspective, and I think ultimately, just like, I mean, I'm sure Les Brown. I mean, you sought out Les Brown after that. I think leaders are always seeking out the resources, the tools, the people that are going to help them get to the next level. And if you're not purposely, I mean, obviously, if you're watching this interview, you're seeking, but being able to be the person who is remaining on the cutting edge of competency, I think is incredible, because those are the people that ultimately figure out how to pivot. There's no, like, you're not going to get the MSA and get the key. Like, I feel like we're always looking for the key. We're looking for one piece, and it's like it's a combination of keys that unlock the thing for you. But having a strategic storytelling skill set, I think, is something that definitely is going to be important. One of the things I really appreciate about your experience too, Andy, is, and I don't know if I asked you about this. Do you have a background in instructional design, like on training? Because I feel like you're.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've been asked that multiple times. I have another friend of mine. Her name is Dr. Erica. She actually is a former principal and also a Harvard graduate. And she has her own powerful brand called the Seven Figure Educator. And every time she's going to introduce me, she always goes, y'all know how serious I am about curriculum and so forth. And the reason why I bring Andy here is because of the way that he really has frameworks behind everything he does. And quite honest with you, Brian, I think it has a lot to do with just sort of like maybe my analytical nature and having an accounting background. And also for me to learn things, I need frameworks, right? I don't want just theories. Like I need frameworks, right? And then that was the thing. A lot of times when I was studying under many of the greats, I would process what they had, but they didn't exactly like always have a framework. And then my brain's always like, okay, what's the framework here? What's the thing that's consistent? And then now when I understand the framework, part of my gifting is now the ability to be able to teach it to somebody else. And, we've been blessed and fortunate, man. I mean, at this point, if you're not even counting just the people who came through MSA, but the fact that, I've, taken direct sales companies that had thousands of people at a time through my trainings, right? Executives over at Bacardi, at Office Depot, Pratt & Whitney, Accenture. And so at this stage, it's literally been thousands of people. And so at this point, I know the questions that are going to come up. I know what people need to get clarity on. I know what they need to practice and so forth to be able to walk away saying, hey, man, I got taken through a process that, of course, they need to trust the process. And I know what the outcome is going to be. As long as they play full out, I know they're going to leave with a powerful message that they're going to be able to use over and over again, that they'll be able to leverage to be able to connect with their customer and clients, and then use that connection, that trust to move them towards the buying decisions of their products and their services.
I love that, because I know we have a lot of people listening right now who may be not only just speaking, but also planning their own event, or maybe they just got into, they just hosted their first experience and they might be coming up on year 2 or year 3. And the thing that I was consistently impressed with MSA is that from the moment that you arrive, everything feels hyper intentional. You mentioned playing full out. And so we established that contract on day 1, which is always amazing. And then you are, from the moment, like, because sometimes I think, we all go, everybody's been through a corporate training where you're like, oh man, I cannot wait for this to be over.
Yeah.
But at MSA, I really felt like by the time we got to the end of each day, I'm like, what?
People don't want to leave.
It's 6 o'clock. Not just want to leave, but it's like you have us doing, like, it's very active. It's like, you are doing something, you might be like, we're listening, and then you're throwing us into an exercise, and then it's like, so it's always moving. And so do you have any thoughts or feedback on how you just structure such an incredible program? I know you probably have some mechanisms, particularly over 10 years of just
man.
Yeah, go for it.
That's so good, Brian. And that's the thing. I think you said one of the things is it's intentionality, and then understanding that you set the standard. So what I always try to get my team to understand is that when we are hosting our events, we set the standard. So we don't allow the participants to decide like where the standard is. We set the bar, and instead of us bringing the bar down to whatever their energy level is or where they are mentally, they need to rise to the standard that we created. The other thing is just the intentionality. So we just have a couple of key things. We understand that your experience starts from the moment that you arrive, and we don't allow anyone to casually walk into our room or casually walk out of our room. So we want to make sure that they are in their highest peak state from an energy standpoint and so forth, because then that's the energy that they're going to bring to the room and to the training and the things that we believe. And I believe that your next level is going to require next level energy. So we know people come to trainings and life is lifing, things are going on and so forth. And so we want to put them in a different state so that they can go ahead and give this training their all so that they can get everything. Another principle that we always tell them is like, it works if you work it. And one thing we guarantee them is that we're going to give 100%, but they got to understand that they got to be responsible for their own bags per se, right? And they got to be responsible for their participation in the experience. But to make that easy for them, we make the experience enjoyable, right? The other thing is that, you know, there are a lot of trainings. People are tired of being in trainings while they're doing is taking notes. They're not doing anything. So we do stacked layered learning, right? So we teach a principle. We immediately have them apply the principle. We get them to process the principle, teach another part of the framework, get them to immediately apply it. And it's almost like we're building and constructing a home, right? First, we're going to go ahead and we're going to put the foundation down, and then we're going to start putting the stuff brick by brick, brick by brick, when we're building. It's the same principle with our training, which is why we tell people you need to be there all 3 days, because we're building and we're constructing a home. And if you skip a day, you're missing a part of the actual construction. This is built layered learning. But what happens is when that happens, people start going through a process and they start seeing the magic. The other thing is giving people the opportunity to be able to connect with the other participants. In the nature of what we do, you remember this, Brian, there's so many opportunities for you to share your story with other people in the room. And what we found is when it happens, what it does is beyond me as the instructor and the other coaches validating your story, it's being validated by your peers that are there. The other thing is everyone's belief system goes up because they're like, wait a second, these aren't paid actors and actresses. Like I saw this person on day one. I saw them, you know, maybe frustrated, trying to figure it out. I'm seeing the growth that's happening to them. And then they're like, whoa, on day 3, they're like, whoa, were these paid actors or actresses? Because they're like, man, I have really seen the growth. We have people that have cried during our day 3. You know, we do something special towards the end. I don't want to give it away, but we've had people that cried that say, I didn't even cry when I graduated from college. I ain't cried when I graduated from high school, but I cried after this experience. And the reason why is because it is not a normal experience that we take them through, right? And it's full immersion, and people underestimate. We hear about, you know, you can form a new habit in 30 days, et cetera, and all that, but people underestimate what you could do in 3 full immersion days, where you are disconnected and you are locked in, focusing on developing one particular skill and getting in the reps and the repetition. And it's so amazing when people, they're like, oh my gosh, like what happened over these 3 days? Like I couldn't make happen on my own over the last 6 months. Yeah, because guess what? You were giving it fractured focus. Over these last 3 days, you were locked in, right? And you're in an environment that literally causes you to show up as the highest and best level of you. And you're in this amazing container, and you're getting the reps in, and you're getting validated, and you're getting practice, and you're understanding why this level of learning is full immersion. And that's going to create a much bigger result than something that's surface level. I just took some notes, et cetera. You know what I mean? And that's why we're so grateful for the work we do, brother.
Man, look, so you heard it here. And by the way, y'all head over to, I believe, MSAHomecoming.com is the website. I want to pull it up really quick because on my last question for you, Andy, before I let you go, I really just want to make sure that folks know how incredible this is. So one of the pieces that I think you do in the top 1% of everybody that's in this event space is video. I think you and your team do an incredible job of capturing high level video, B-roll, testimonials, and not just, some people they just pop up the camera outside and they do the testimonials afterwards. Like your testimonials, like you're capturing all the way through. And so and then you see where those resources show up. I mean, if y'all go to the website, obviously this is an
they'll be able to
incredible
play that video. It gives them an idea of what it's like to be in the room. They'll see the video of Les Brown, you know what I mean, talking
yes.
about it. You scroll to the bottom, they'll see testimonials, man. Like, we don't want anyone to have any excuse as to why they're not in the room, brother. So we like, hey, listen, if we gotta get you a video, let you see the testimonials, like all the things that people start second guessing. We don't want you second guessing, man. We want you in the room so that we can help you to be able to transform your message, right? And then for the 10-year anniversary, we're ending Saturday night with the Black Tie Soiree.
I just saw that. I didn't know.
Yeah. Sometimes folks like to get dressed up and look good and stuff. You know what I mean? So that's included in the ticket as well. That they have a ticket to the Black Tie Soiree. So we're super excited about that. You know what I mean? Red carpet arrival, DJ and, food and the whole nine, man. So we're excited, man. It's going to be special. But most importantly, messages are going to be transformed, lives are going to be transformed, and businesses are going to be transformed.
Absolutely, man. This is incredibly special. Also, this might be the first time I've seen the word soiree spelled out. It's soiree, right?
Yeah. Black Tie Soiree. I wanted to be a little cool with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's dope, man. But I guess my last question, can you talk a little bit about your strategy with video? Like, because again, over the course of years, it just feels like it just keeps getting better and better. So like, as you are thinking about event experiences, how do you plug in video, or how do you get your team ready?
The reality of it is, for all of us, man, it doesn't matter how great what you're doing is, right? At the end of the day, if people don't see it, you know what I mean? And that's what the problem is for a lot of entrepreneurs. They're like the best kept secret. And so the thing is, we've heard the expression before, like a picture's worth 1,000 words. Well, if a picture's worth 1,000 words, then a video is worth at least 1,000,000, right? Because there's so much you can see the energy, you can hear from the folks, you can almost like experience what it's like to be in the room. And sometimes you think about going someplace, you're like, I don't know, how's it gonna be? Is it gonna be any good? And is it worth my time? Is it worth my money? All these things you're saying, right? And so for all of us, right, as you're doing these events, I know, doing events can be very stressful. I know doing events can be very costly. But the one place you don't really want to be able to cut the cost is with the videos, because the videos are really an investment into your business, into your brand, and getting people to understand what it's like to be in the room. And quite frankly, it doesn't matter what you say, how articulate you are, and how great you say your event is, it is still not going to top them being able to see a video. It's just like for someone being a speaker, you can say how phenomenal, how awesome they are. The event planner is still going to want to see that speaker in action. And the second best thing to seeing that speaker live in action is to see a video. And so we want to get those videos. We want to make sure those videos are capturing the experience. We want to make sure they're capturing what kind of results people produce. We want to capture the energy and what does it actually feel like. If someone knows what would it feel like to be in the room, our videos, we try to make sure we do that. That's why you see us dancing. You hear people's testimonials, because we do all that, right? So we want to make sure that they know this is not your regular sit down, you just writing on a piece of paper. Like, no, we transforming lives and we gonna have a great time. So, if they're just at the MSA homecoming.com, they'll see those videos there, man. So I'm excited, brother.
Yeah, you heard it from the man. We ain't want to keep you long, Andy. We know MSA less than 30 days. So if you're watching this now or prior, not too late to grab your ticket. If you are a speaker, this is a no-brainer. If you're going to, again, put your money somewhere. On the event side, put it in video. On the speaker side, I would invest in the storytelling, especially if you have not had the opportunity to go through one of Andy's programs before. If you have not been MSA, I know you have an incredible MSA alumni community as well, Andy. So, thank you for continuing to make these.
And then I do want to say this, right? Because you guys stayed with us all the way to the end of this. So when you go to msahomecoming.com, as soon as we're done here, I'm going to have the team go ahead and do something special. So specifically so that I know you heard us here, right? So first and foremost, to just make sure we know you heard us here. And we're also going to go ahead and do something special for you. You'll be able to use the coupon code BSN, right? So BSN. So if you put BSN in, I'm going to make sure right when I'm done, I talk to Brian. This is something we always do to be able to honor the BSN community. So you'll still go to MSAHomecoming.com. But when it comes time for you to secure your seat, you're going to use the coupon code BSN. Now, I'm not sure exactly what that coupon code it's going to hook you up. I'm not sure to what extent it will hook you up. I'm going to have a conversation with Brian, but you could use the BSN for the coupon code. Just wanted to go ahead and say that. And that's our gift to you all for, being part of the BSN community.
And that's what it is, man. Listen, Andy, you're always giving, you're always serving, man. You and your wife, because she has an amazing brand of her own. So I appreciate you both and just constantly pouring out and making sure that folks are getting access to the community resources and information that's necessary to move our visions forward, man. Thank you, Andy, man. So we'll be talking to you more as we approach, and obviously, I think that, to your point, when we look back 10 years from now, we're like, yo, who really moved the needle? It's just going to be storytellers. I don't care if you identify as speaker, founder, content creator, podcaster. Storytelling sits at the heart of this thing. So MSA is coming up May 28th to 30th. Get yourself down to Fort Lauderdale. We got a BSN coupon code to use. And Andy, as always, man, thank you for just being such an incredible partner, and definitely looking forward to welcoming more MSA alumni to the fold, my brother.
Hey, man, my pleasure, man. Hey, thanks for having me backstage, man. This is dope, man. I like being backstage. It felt like a little, backstage conversation going on, and I'm glad, for folks that listen in. So I appreciate that, man. Thanks for having me, Brian.
Absolutely. Appreciate you, man. Talk to you soon.
All right, brother.